Hello and welcome to the big picture. The elections to the 5 states in this country is hotting up. Politicians are going around campaigning and promising a lot of things. This is causing some controversies, and also the election commission is getting to become more and more severe with these kind of things which are happening during the campaign. So today we will look at how much the elections can be sanitized and how far can we go about doing that. To discuss this, I have with me today Mr. H.S. Brahma, the Election Commissioner, Mr. Yogendra Yadav, Senior Fellow at the CSDS, and then here in the studio with me is Mr. Jagdeep Chokar of the Association of Democratic Reforms, which has been doing a lot of work on the elections in this country for the last several years, and also Mr. Shekhar Iyer, Associate Editor of the Hindustan Times. Welcome to all of you. Let me go to Mr. Brahma first. Mr. Brahma, in the last few days, the latest controversy is about the Union Law Minister making certain statements in Uttar Pradesh, promising 9% reservation to Muslims within the OBC quota, which certain political parties objected to, and the Election Commission has taken note of it, and apparently you people have sent a notice and he has also replied to the notice. So why shouldn't the political parties, the political leaders who are campaigning, why can't they make such promises?
Actually, of course, there's no bar in promising this kind of benefit or soap in the state, but the point is that at least they should have a manifesto said party is going to do, or XYZ is going to do like this or that. But the point is here is that when the political parties are not having the manifesto, or they are not still having any decision at the government level to increase the upward revision or downward revision, it will not be correct to promise in the public that I'll do this or do that, assuring something benefit which are not existing on the ground.
So,
that's why it disturbs the level playing field.
Mr. Brahma,
it disturbs the level playing field on the.
Mr. Brahma, what you are trying to say is, if the political parties put this thing in their manifesto, then you cannot object to it.
We don't expect, object, because once you have a manifesto or the policy of the state is like this or that, we have no objection.
So tomorrow,
but, normally, please go ahead.
So tomorrow the election, the Congress party is expected to, today or tomorrow it's expected to issue its manifesto, release its manifesto. In the manifesto for Uttar Pradesh, if the Congress party says that we will grant 9% reservation to Muslims among the backward class quota, you will have no objections to it?
We will have no objection. Once they have a manifesto prepared by the party, they have promised to do something in the state or in the country, we have no objection. But it should have some manifesto or a plan, actual plan on, so that we don't have any objection on that kind of things. Absolutely no.
Okay, Mr. Brahma, I'll come back to you. There are several other issues which needs to be discussed with you. Let me go to Yogendra Yadav. Yogendra Yadav, Mr. Brahma has clarified. This kind of clarification has not come so far from the Election Commission. Now he is clarifying that if you put it in the manifesto, there is nothing that anybody can do about it. The Election Commission also will not take it amiss. Is this the way? Should that solve the problem?
I must say that I'm really surprised at what Mr. Brahma has said. I'm not entirely sure if this is the Election Commission's official view, but if it is, it's astounding. I thought the Election Commission is not in the business of looking at the election manifestos of their parties. I'm not sure what exactly gives the Election Commission's powers to examine, scrutinize the election manifestos of different parties.
Right.
I do understand that Election Commission needs to be strong. In general, I would welcome an Election Commission being able to stand up to the government of the time.
Right.
But I am not entirely sure if this happens to be an example of that kind. if the party promises something, and different parties can promise various kinds of things. Parties can promise moon, they can promise unrealistic things. It is for the people to judge and say whether they find it right and wrong.
Absolutely.
I do think that in this instance, they may have been a bit of overreach, if I may say that.
Yogendra, another issue is, let us take this present controversy about Salman Khurshid, the Union Law Minister, making a statement saying that, we'll grant 9% reservation. What is wrong with that? Or do you think there's anything wrong with that at all?
Look, I think we must separate the question of political morality and legal correctness.
Right.
Whether this is a good policy by itself or not, that is to be judged by the people of this country. Let that be judged. I may have my opinion on it. Someone else can have a different opinion on these things. So I'm not saying whether it's a good policy or not. The question is whether it constitutes a violation of law, whether it constitutes a violation of level playing ground.
Right.
If I was someone Election Commission took seriously, which needn't be the case, I would say that the real serious question of level playing ground are happening on the ground. There are questions of bribes being paid. There are questions of all kinds of things happening with the media. I would have focused my attention more on those things rather than on this large grand question.
Okay. Let me go to Mr. Jagdeep Chokar. Chokar, you people have been involved in in issues regarding electoral reforms and all. Is this one of the concerns of organizations like yours, these kind of promises which political parties make during the elections? What kind of promises they make?
Our organization has not followed this, but as an individual who is an observer of the political scene, I believe that this promise is possibly violative of the provisions of the Representation of People Act, which says that campaigning on communal religious issues is against the spirit of the Representation of People Act. So promising something like this to a specific communal group is objectionable and is, in my mind, unconstitutional.
Okay, Shekhar, do you agree with what Mr. Chokar is saying in the present context, in the present controversy?
Well, I think there is already a debate about the constitutionality of this kind of affirmative action on religious basis, because that is the bigger debate.
Right, absolutely.
I think what the Election Commission has taken note of this time is it has sort of some kind of a stay in the implementation till the elections are over.
Yes.
I think that is...
See, there are two aspects to this. There are two, Mr. Brahma, let me come back to you. There are two aspects to this whole controversy. One is the Election Commission having stayed the implementation of the central government's decision to grant 4.5% quota to minorities within the OBC in these election-going states. The other controversy is about the 9% promise made by Salman Khurshid. So, these are two different things, right?
Yeah. No, basically, we have no objection of 4.5 being implemented in the other parts of the country, because we are only worried about level playing field in this election going state. Now we have a 5 state like Manipur, Uttarakhand, Punjab, other place, Goa, etc. So the point is that by saying that I'll give you 9% over and above this 4.5% whatever number we have recommended earlier, etc. Without a very clear idea, without any manifesto, without any abode objective of the state, I think definitely going to disturb the level playing field in those states. Therefore, our whole intention is that maintain the level playing field, and especially in those states where we are having election. We have actually asked the Government of India, our people, ministries, to not to do anything in these 5 states. Other you are free to go to any other part of the country. Only you are restricting only in 5 states where the polls are going to be in this month and next month. Only in those areas you have to. Otherwise you have no objection. But regarding this 9% announcement by our Honorable Minister, our Minister Sahab, the point is that by announcing 9%, you are giving something which is not rightly present right now at the present.
No,
but if you have a
Mr.
manifesto
Brahma,
that government is, once the government comes to power.
Mr. Brahma, the whole idea of campaigning during elections by political parties is to promise something or the other to the voter. It is, how can it be termed as something which is violative or something like that? Okay, as Mr. Chokar is saying, Chokar has made a larger point. He has said that this may be violative of the Representation of People's Act. Is it a violation of the Representation of People's Act?
Yeah, definitely, because being in the government, if I say something that I'll do this and that, definitely has got difference. A Mamul political party announcing something and our respected minister coming from the government saying something makes lots of difference.
Okay.
Ordinary man, political party, a political gentleman from any party is saying one thing, one thing, and minister from government of India is saying is something different.
Absolutely.
There's a difference.
Okay.
That's how we have seen the difference, that's all.
Okay. Mr. Brahma, please hold
please go
on.
ahead.
Mr. Brahma, please hold on. We need to go into a short break now. We'll come back and discuss this issue further and also other issues concerning the elections, which Yogendra Yadav also touched briefly just now. Please keep watching. We'll be back very soon. Welcome back. We are discussing how far can elections be sanitized in this country and how far can we go in doing that. Let me come to you, Yogendra. Yogendra, you heard what Mr. Brahma said. You know, there's also an issue which he has, there's a larger issue in what he's saying. One, he says, for 2 months now, the elections are happening in these 5 states. So the central government, which has taken a decision to give 4.5%, they have to hold it back for the next 2 months or 2 months till the elections are over. The larger issue which crops out of this kind of situation is that in India, every year there are elections happening in various parts of the country. I mean, you are even showing some graphics showing the last 10 years how often elections have been held in different parts of the country in different months. Not necessarily, in some years it has been clubbed together, but in many years we can see that in different months of the year, elections are, every time 45 days to 60 days goes away, Government of India's programs cannot be implemented. I mean, is this a practical thing? How it is going to affect the entire governance itself?
I think we are mixing lots of issues here. The first question is whether the Election Commission is right to stay the implementation of 4.5% quota, which it has announced within the OBC in these 5 states.
Right.
I think that my own sense is that the Election Commission is quite justified in doing so. They are justified because the whole idea is that you can't announce something on the election eve, start implementing it, and try and get political dividends out of it. As long as the Election Commission stays it only in these states and only for the period of elections, I see nothing wrong in it. It's a very good and healthy practice.
The
other and entirely separate question is, and I...
Yeah, please.
Yeah, and I don't think elections happening all over the country at different points of time is a real problem here, because you are freezing it, staying it only for those states where elections are taking place. You're not staying it for the rest of the country. So I really see nothing wrong with that. The real question there is the second one, which is whether the minister has done something wrong by talking about that 9% quota.
Right.
We are listening to 3 different reasons, and there's a lot of confusion here. One is whether it is communal. I'm afraid, I have a deep respect for Mr. Chokar, but I don't think giving a sub-quota for one religious community within an OBC, and not for all community, but only for OBC religious community, becomes communal. It may be illegal, the Supreme Court may strike it down, but I'm sure he doesn't want to say it's communal. I would like him to think about it.
Okay.
Whether the party's manifesto mentions it or not, I don't think it's any business of the Election Commission to even begin to ask these questions. The only question is whether minister has misused his ministerial power and ministerial position to make an announcement on behalf of the central government about something in the course of an election. Now, that is the only point to be determined. From what I can read in the press, that hasn't happened. He's just made a promise, which is like a political promise made by all parties. But if he goes there and says, as Union Law Minister, I'm telling you that this is what we are doing, then that's a different matter. That's the point to be determined. I don't think we need to bring all other kinds of issues here.
Right. Yogender, interestingly, this 9% is specifically for the state of Uttar Pradesh if Congress comes to power. That is the promise. Anyway, let me come to Mr. Chokar. Mr. Chokar,
in which case, this is a normal political promise, and that would be implemented only by Uttar Pradesh government. This has nothing to do with his capacity as a union law minister.
Absolutely. And Mr. Chokar, so, Yogender, I think has a point when he says that this may not really come into that, category of violation under the Representation of People's Act.
Let me share two things. What does a level playing field mean? Level playing field means that every player on that field can do similar or equivalent things.
What is stopping Samajwadi Party or BSP or BJP from saying that we will also give 9% or 10% or 5%?
That is where we get into this populist phenomenon that we saw in Tamil Nadu. Somebody is giving televisions, somebody is giving mixies, somebody is giving laptops.
Right.
The point is, this is how the electoral process gets vitiated. The promise of a sub-quota to minorities within the OBC quota, obviously one can see what the minorities are.
No, my question, Mr. Chokar,
in a particular state, at the time when the elections are on,
that is the time promises are made.
And Salman Khurshid is not going to stand up and say that I am speaking in my capacity as X, Y or Z. Salman Khurshid is Salman Khurshid. He has not abdicated his position as the law minister for the course of the election.
Okay.
So anything that he says is said by the law minister.
Shekhar, what stops other political parties from making such announcements? So if one party makes it, why should it become a issue of violation?
Well, technically, yes, but here, it's a government. The fact that the Congress is saying it from the platform of, being in power at the center, that gives that added, I would call value, added strength and added impact. See, if one party is going to say it, in fact, Samajwadi has asked for more. They have asked for even 11%.
Right.
So, see, the issue, I think, what is happening here is, I think Congress is not actually unhappy about the Election Commission decision, because even that kind of decision brings more focus. So therefore, I think political parties by themselves are not very unhappy, because it serves each of the players there.
Shekhar, it's not just a question of political parties being happy or unhappy. We are looking at it in a larger issue. Yogender, let me come back to you. Mr. Chokar says that because Salman Khurshid is the union law minister, he is saying it, that means that, it is not giving a level playing field to others. And that's what Mr. Brahma also says.
First of all, the decision to give 9%, 10% or 20% in UP for UP job does not lie with the central government at all.
Absolutely.
This is not the preserve of the union government.
Right.
So union law minister can make no legal declaration at all.
Right.
Secondly, there are lots of bad things which happen in election, like competitive promises, like irresponsible promises. You cannot make a law about each of these things. In the last instance, people have to say, this is irresponsible. We are not going to go vote for this fellow.
Absolutely.
I'm afraid this desire to have a law for everything bad can be fatal.
Sure. Mr. Brahma, you heard what Mr. Yogender is saying. First of all, does the Election Commission look at the manifestos, or does it have the mandate to look at the manifestos of various parties and decide, and then decide, okay, you have put it in manifesto, now we will not object to it. Till yesterday, your manifesto was not out. Tomorrow the manifesto is out. 9% we are granting, we are promising. So now you are fine. You can go ahead and campaign on that score. Is that the way the Election Commission would look at this issue?
Normally, Election Commission expect that all manifesto published by our respective political parties, the copies are being sent to the Election Commission. There has been tradition that every political party who goes for election, if they have published in a manifesto, is it mandatory that they send their copies to us also, the Election Commission.
Right.
Normally, if a manifesto clearly says that we'll do this or that, then I mean, our action would have been that we don't interfere in the decision of the political party. After all, becoming the political party's aims and ambition. But here, unfortunately, in this case, what our people have meant, or what we felt, was that a person of union minister declaring that I'll do this or that, in the absence of any manifesto or any clear, something like a manifesto with them, so before any manifesto being issued, normally that's what the objectionable point, because the union minister, after all, is the union minister of the country.
Mr. Brahma,
whatever he or says or acts, he definitely have action implemented. Yeah.
Mr. Brahma, today the election commission is supposed to have met and taken note of the reply given by the law minister. What is the decision of the election commission?
I mean, actually, we know the reply has come yesterday, but right. I think today we didn't have an opportunity to study the thing, and I think by Monday we'll decide the matter, because today we had a meeting in the forenoon, there is so many agenda item, but this particular reply of our respective minister didn't come to us. So Monday, I think we'll take a decision differently on that subject.
Okay, Mr. Brahma, please stay on. We need to go into a short break now. We'll come back soon and continue this discussion. Welcome back. We are discussing how much can the elections be sanitized. Yogendra, you heard what Mr. Brahma said. Now the issue is again the same thing. He says that as far as if the manifesto, if they present it in the manifesto, they have no problem.
I'm sure when the Election Commission meets on Monday, they would look at all these things, and I'm sure we'll have a more clear voice. At the moment, there is simply too much confusion of all kinds of things. To my mind, the real issue is simply this and no more. The issue is whether Salman Khurshid went there and made an announcement or a quasi-announcement on behalf of the central government that 9% quota will be granted across that of course has to be across the country, because union minister can take only those general decisions. Or did he go and say, in UP, if we win this election, our government in UP will bring 9% quota? These are two entirely different things with entirely different legal and political consequences. The commission will have to look closely as to which of these two is actually the case.
Absolutely.
And as for the 4.5% stay is concerned, as I've already said, it was within the Commission's power, and I'm very happy that the Commission took that decision, because that would have actually created a bad precedent, a government making big announcements just on the eve of elections and trying to push it through.
Okay. Mr. Chokar, your association has also presented a kind of a paper, on electoral reforms to the Election Commission, and you held several consultations across the country. So, does your paper, your consultation paper, does it cover the issue of these elections happening every year in different parts of the country and model code of conduct being implemented at that point of time? So if you see over a period of 5 years, let us say the central government's period of 5 years, about 10 months is taken away, if not more sometimes, where it almost stops functioning, if not an entire country, in certain states. So it's not able to implement certain decisions.
No, I don't think this concern is so disturbing as it is made out to be. The code of conduct comes into force the day the elections are announced.
Yes.
And it remains till the day of the polling.
Which is normally 45 days to
45 days. Now this happens in different states.
Yes.
The central government is free to do what it wants to do. There is nothing stopping the central government in rest of the country, and there are hardly any pressing issues that I have come across in the last few years that they're not happening in, let us say, Manipur or in Goa or in Uttarakhand, etc., is disturbing the whole country. So this phenomenon has happened over a period of time. It is, I don't think, dysfunctional. The dysfunctionality comes in when under the pretext of this, governments want to stop working. The code of conduct is a document agreed to by all political parties.
By all political parties. Code of conduct is in fact a document which the political parties have given to themselves.
Yes.
Right?
Therefore, the code of conduct became extremely important when there was only one party in power all over the country, and there was an apprehension that that party will take undue advantage of it being in the government. Today, when there are multiple parties in power across the country, actually the code of conduct is not that crucial, because each political party is keeping a watch on the other. And the election commission is playing as a neutral umpire.
Shekhar, coming to this issue of electoral reforms, as Mr. Chokar pointed out, and even Yogendra was talking, there are much more serious issues than stopping this kind of statements or speeches like that. There are issues of money, which we have been hearing in the last couple of days, that the election commission has been active in confiscating money which is going around. But there are certain ridiculous things which are happening also. One is that in Uttar Pradesh, we have read just today that some candidate is getting married and he has to take permission from the election commission as to how many people can he invite.
Absolutely. I think we are seeing more the so-called, the model code, which is seen as kind of some kind of a rigorous law during elections, being implemented more in letter rather than in spirit. Take, for instance, the Election Commission's order on covering all the statues and elephants.
We have discussed enough on that. That's why I didn't bring that.
You see, the things like this, the whole big question is, what is the import of all this? I mean, you cannot.
Exactly.
And in fact,
let me go to Mr. Brahma. Violations of Model Code of Conduct. Every time there is an election, we keep hearing of how the Election Commission has taken serious note of it. But what happens ultimately to people who you find as having violated the Model Code of Conduct? Does the Election Commission have any means to really take serious action at all? Quickly.
Actually, we all know that Model Code of Conduct normally operates only for, say, from the date of announcement to the completion of the polling. That is the date of announcement. It's hardly more than 45 to 50 days.
Right.
And it only applies to such of those cases where, we are not, where if the routine things are being, traditional things are going for years together, Election Commission never stops any program, any issue which is being going on for, say, years together. We are only stepping into those areas where it is suddenly announced. Suddenly, after 20 years or 10 years, we realize that something has to be done. Only such thing we interfere. Otherwise, the routine developmental activities,
No, Mr. Brahma.
Allowing. In fact, there will be no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Brahma. Thank you. Yogendra, last word.
Regarding this,
Yogendra, last word to you. Actually, these violations which the Election Commission find as violations, ultimately nothing happens on the ground to people who have been found violating this. That is the sad reality.
Look, let's acknowledge the basic fact that over the last 20 years or so, something has improved. In the last 20 years, the electoral practices have improved. Election Commission's role has been salutary and good. I think in the recent past, the Election Commission is sometimes given to an overreach, which is avoidable. I would much rather that they focus their attention not on the statues and elephants, not so much on these declarations, which the public can take care of. If they were to focus their attention on money and uneven flow of information through media. Media is becoming a principal source of electoral corruption today.
Okay.
If they focus their attention on these and trying to get it right, I would be much more happy. And if they were to actually get some action done, that would really make much more difference to elections.
Right. Thank you, Yogendra. Thank you. So, at the end of the discussion, it's evident that Election Commission has indeed made a difference to the elections in this country, but there has been tendency to overreach, and that overreach can lead to some ridiculous situations. So, the need for Election Commission also to be a little more sober when dealing with these kind of things has been felt in this country, and this has been talked about quite a lot. So, we will end here. Thanks to all my guests, Mr. Brahma, Mr. Yogendra Yadav, Mr. Chokar, and Mr. Shekhar Iyer. We'll come back with another issue on the big picture. Please keep watching.